live. We are recording right now Thursday. I think it's afternoon. I don't know what's going on right now. April 24th. I'm fresh off a red eye. It's in North Carolina right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see behind me. There's probably going to be birds chirping. Chase, I might get rained on out here. Who knows? But Chase, you just came off a cross-country flight too. This might be a delirious episode.
It might be. And all I'm thinking about right now, Carter, is how come we didn't get invited to cruising with the Cougs, and a little offended.
Crap. Yeah, I think we could have stopped the transfer portal exodus if we were there for football.
Honestly, we could have talked some sense into the fellas. I think if they would have seen us there on the deck, maybe shirtless, maybe a couple of virgin pina coladas, it would have changed things for sure.
The mocktails were crazy on the cruise. You hear the Dr. Pepper and Diet Coke machines went out? Yeah, I don't know anything that happened on the cruise. I'm just screwing with you.
That sounds like something that you could absolutely aggregate and everyone would believe it.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah, but I don't know what happened on that cruise, man. BYU football is in a rough spot. But this is a BYU basketball show, so let's get into stuff right now. Latest transfer portal stuff. It's been quiet, man. We haven't gotten any news, and Brody Kozlowski announced he's coming back. The transfer portal closed. Looks like Dawson Baker will be back then. So it looks like there's going to be a good amount of continuity on this roster. And then there's the Richie Saunders equation. Does he test the waters and declare for the draft? I think either way, no matter what Richie does, is he's either coming back or he's declaring and testing the waters. I don't think he's going to forego his last year of college basketball by any means.
Yeah, it's down to those two options with the portal closing and this early and everything. I'm sure he's still weighing his options and testing some waters, talking to some people. I'm sure he has an agent that is working with him, and they're just trying to figure out what's best for Richie. And that's, all the power to him. I'm not in his shoes, but I would certainly think the right move for him at this point in his career, with the momentum he's getting and then everything coming into like his environment next season, would be to stick around. I have no reason to believe he wouldn't, but he still hasn't said. And so I think he's going to take his time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you're just looking at it as a financial piece, it makes sense to come back to college. You're going to make more money playing another year. You're going to get more notoriety. Hey, you want NBA scouts to look at you? Well, look who you're going to be playing with next season. All of your games are going to be nationally televised. There's going to be 60 scouts at the Marriott Center every single night, even when you're playing Central Arkansas or whatever. So I think it makes more sense for him to come back. That's his decision. Whatever he decides, everyone's going to be rooting for him because it's Richie Saunders, man. So, but I would expect him to be coming back. So the roster is a lot more clear now. I still think we've talked about this a lot in these offseason pods. There's still two more spots I think need to be filled. They need a 3-and-D guy, I think, and they need a backup point guard. And I still think they go international at one spot, and I think they go portal for the backup point guard spot, in my opinion. Or well, it remains to be seen, but that's what I'm thinking. I think it's one international and one portal spot.
And you're leaning towards international being that 3-and-D guy, and then the portal as the backup point guard.
Yes, but
it makes sense.
Could flip. Everything moves so fast with this. We could be recording this or we could be end the recording of this podcast, and all of a sudden BYU just signed 3 dudes we haven't heard of.
Exactly. At the end, it could be all international guys with the way that this team moved last offseason. At this point, it really it would make sense to try and get someone for that backup point guard position who's proven themselves as someone that can play college hoops at a high level and take care of the ball. That's what you're looking for in that position, right? It's just someone to control the offense and keep everyone's heart rates down a little bit during big moments. Obviously, you'll have Rob Wright taking on the bulk of the minutes of that position, but someone that can still be effective when you give him a break. With the European stuff or international, I should say, there's a lot of options for international. Those guys typically come to college, I feel like, to start and to maybe just prepare for the draft. It seems like a lot of those guys are already pros. They all are already pros. They've already played professional overseas, and they're kind of just looking to make a step into American basketball. And it's becoming very popular, right? Obviously, for college to be that route. And you get money now, too. Like, you get a pretty dang good paycheck, and then you get to start preparing for the NBA draft. So if BYU is looking international, in fact, they are looking international, but if they were to get someone, I'd expect it to be someone with NBA aspirations, much like Yegor Demon at this time last year coming in, and someone who is looking to contribute right off the bat and not exactly play a backup position, but maybe slide into starting, like we said, 3-and-D guy, someone that can kind of do it all and then really hold down the defense. The more I look at this roster, Carter, and this is me being maybe a little negative and just fishing for some sort of content at this point, I'm concerned a little bit about the defense on this end. I mean, Whitmag and Trey Stewart were vital parts of what made this defense bearable. It wasn't even a good defense by any means this last season. And it was because of basically two guys. It's Kay Bakeda holding down the center position, which he's still going to be able to do, which is good news for BYU. And then it was Mawit Mag terrorizing their best player in one-on-one defense. I think losing Mag and Trey Stewart, who was your backup at that position, who would just come in and do the same thing, is actually a pretty big blow to that side of the ball.
I think so 100% because also you look at it, you go, okay, well, AJ, he can play defense. He's a good defender. He can guard almost anybody. But the problem is, especially with freshmen, you don't want them guarding the other team's best player for 40 minutes in a game because you don't want them to get into foul trouble, and you want to use their energy where it's best used, and that's going to be AJ on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't necessarily want AJ being the primary defender having to go out. Now, if it's end of the game, last play kind of deal, okay, yeah, he can get switched on to their best player, play defense for one possession. That's different. But throughout the entirety of a game, you kind of need that bruiser that Mawit Mag was this year, and you kind of need that guy off the bench, the Energizer Bunny, like you were saying, with Trey Stewart, who comes in and can guard, another team's point guard and, just wreak havoc a little bit.
Yeah, pick the guy up, from 90 feet and make him legitimately work for it. Like, that stuff was huge for BYU. And think about the biggest games where they won. Those guys made a huge impact. They gave up 90 points consistently, and they were able to outscore them because the offense was clicking at a crazy rate. But when they needed the stops, obviously we all think of that second round game versus Wisconsin. When they needed the stops, they turned to their best defensive player, who was an insanely good defensive player. They just don't have that big standout defensive guy. I mean, it's not on the roster right now. I mean, some guys could step up. You could see someone come back with a more defensive minded presence. But the thing is, all these guys you're bringing in, super talented, are scorers, and which is what you need. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need those extra guys, like we're talking about, to kind of figure it out. So maybe it's maybe it's still out there in the portal, or maybe it's someone that they've signed who just hasn't shown their defensive metal yet. Sometimes what it takes is guys to just embrace a role a little bit more and all of a sudden really step up into it. So that could be the case.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, talking about embracing the role, because dude, if you're in the portal right now, think about if you're one of these players. You go, okay, I can go be a backup at BYU. I'm going to get a decent payday and everything, and I'm going to be on a roster that's going to be competing for a national title in front of NBA scouts. That's appealing and whatnot. But then you could also go, or I could go, lower mid P5 and start. And it's tough turning down playing time. You saw that UMass Lowell guard, Somerville. That's why we didn't talk about him last episode, because, it was clear to us that he was going to Florida State, but he was going to be a backup point guard for BYU, or you can go probably start at Florida State day one. To be honest, if I'm a player, I'm probably picking guaranteed minutes at that point to showcase what I can do, especially if the money's in a similar range. But even if the money's not, I would want to bet on myself as a basketball player.
Absolutely. I think that's what you have to do pretty much, at this point. And we've talked about it a lot in the space of NIL and where it's best for your future. You kind of want to, that's why Dallin Hall decided that he wanted to go find some more playing time, because he wants to play, he wants to start, man. And I think he'll genuinely enjoy his time at BYU, and he was a big part of it. He could contribute to next season's team, no problem. But at the end of the day, and this is the same for recruits coming in, you want to play. And the big key for this team next season, and while we're on the topic, and I know we're jumping ahead a lot, but again, what are we talking about here? Is everyone buying into a role and doing their job? Because you have so much talent on the court. Pretty much every guy in that starting five is going to be like, I want to go to the NBA. I want to be the guy. And they have been the guy at one point or another in their lives. And then here's this 18-year-old. He's going to be the guy on this team. But I did this and this and this. And so the key to college and really any sport, team sport, is everyone buying into their role. The Patriots saying, right, do your job. And then they won 6 Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah, Patriot way. Yeah.
It's Patriot way.
Heat culture.
It is heat culture. And we talk about defense, right? Think of Kason Wallace on this OKC team right now. Watch him play defense, whereas Kentucky, that wasn't his job. I mean, Kason Wallace, he was a great defender, but that dude was, chucking shots and trying to get to the basket. And now he's embraced his role. I mean, maybe he's kind of been forced into it. The NBA may be a little different because college, you just get to choose. You get to decide for yourself. Where do you want to play? What do you want to do there? And you pick the best situation for what you think is best for your career or just what you want. These guys have chosen BYU. There's no backing out now. Are you going to be willing to do what it takes now to be the best team basketball player? Or are you just going to do what's best for you? Some players do it one way, some do it another, and it's going to determine the success of this team. They have the talent to do crazy stuff, win a national championship. That is not out of the picture at all. But if they don't buy in and if they want to do just what they want to do, put up highlights, get their stats, they'll still be a dang good team. Don't get me wrong. But that's what wins in March. That's what we see from these great teams.
Absolutely. And to go off that a little bit too is the worry is, this is why I was so worried about throughout the season if BYU over recruits again, because we're seeing, have you seen Mark Pope's team? Mark Pope's buying everybody under the sun right now. I mean, their NIL is reportedly $20 million apparently. They're getting everybody they want. So they have like 13 scholarship players right now on that roster. And now the portal's closed and everything. So I don't think you can play 13 scholarship players. Like, it's insane. Like, Aberdeen was going to be the guy at Florida, and he's like, no, I'm going to go take the payday to be a backup point guard at Kentucky. It's crazy. But when you do that, and we saw it this year, and it ended up working out for BYU for the most part, but dude, that's a tough spot. Like you talked about, your role at one point, you were the guy and everything. My thing about why it worked with this team with BYU this past year is these dudes were pretty mature on this roster. They were pretty self-aware and understood who they were. And I don't necessarily know that's a formula you can keep using going forward, because you get one bad egg in there, one bad apple. And I'm not saying anybody on this team is. We don't know anybody on this team. We don't know these guys. But if there's someone who's a little, immature, or, hey, has a problem with the role they're playing on this team, then that can ruin the team chemistry. And that's kind of what I'm worried about if they over-recruit. But I don't think BYU's over-recruited in this offseason, especially because I still think there's a couple needs they have to fill.
Right, they're taking their time. And I think they understand that. Like, we're here saying these concerns, and it's not a concern in the coaching staff for what they're trying to put together. I think they're trying to do the right thing. It's just the way that teams work out sometimes, and maybe some egos get in the way. Again, we're not predicting this. But that is what they're trying to do, and they're taking their time. They're finding the right guys. We probably said this like 3 times, but Kansas this last season is the prime example of what happens when all you want to do is buy the best players available, and no one buys in, and it doesn't work out. And you had 2 guys who you thought were great who are now barely getting minutes and barely contributing, and you have a miserable season after being preseason number 1 overall. So
that's what I'm worried about with Kentucky, though. I think Kentucky might be falling into that Kansas trap a little bit, where it almost seems like they aren't even vetting out these players. They are just given so much money to where they can just go, all right, we'll just buy you. They're not even recruiting. They're just selecting at this point, being like, hey, we want you, we want you, we want you. Yeah, come on down. We don't care about the money. We just want you on the roster. And it really feels like how Kansas is putting it together. Now, I think Mark Pope's system is so good that so many players can shine, and they're going to be able to chuck up a bunch of threes, and they'll figure out their rotations and everything. But man, over-recruiting is a problem, especially in the NIL era.
I think we're going to see it for a few years here. And I don't know. I don't think we're exactly ahead of the curve, but it's hard to tell someone no, tell boosters, tell athletic directors like, we are not going to take that guy because we want to do what's best for the team here and win. And so I think it's going to take a few years for people to catch up and realize that's not how you build a team. That's not how you find prolonged success. It's going to take, like I said, building a group of guys that genuinely care about each other, care about winning more than they care about themselves. And that's hard to find, especially when guys are making $5 million and are just here for 9 months and are just ready to move on for their pro careers. I mean, this is why people claim college basketball is going to die. It's not that the sport's going to die. It's that the love for it, the passion for it, and the sacrifice that it takes to be a college athlete, that's what it used to mean, right? A lot of sacrifice of not getting any compensation, and you have to go to class, and you have to spend basically a full-time job playing the sport that you love and getting nothing in return except for your room and board and education costs. Yeah, it's not happening anymore.
You heard in Yegor's press conference thing, he was like, yeah, I want to come back to school. I want to get my degree and everything. I think once he starts making NBA money and then he goes back and it's like, dude, physical science and American heritage, I think I'm good, man. I think I'm good.
Exactly.
Let's just give the guy an honorary degree. You don't need to go to school.
Right. And I'm all for paying guys that deserve it because I think they bring in so much money and they deserve to be compensated. But the legit fear that we're seeing in some schools, not all of them, because I think you just look at every national championship team. Like, you will not win the national championship unless you care about the team more than you care about yourself. You can go back 10, 20, 30, 100 years. Every team that's won it has had that mentality and that mindset. And so it's not going to happen to every team, but some schools are going to fall into this. And BYU's got to work to make sure, with all the money that they have, all the guys that they're going to be attracting who are very talented and who are looking to get paid as well, got to be careful not to fall into that trap.
Especially you look at the Final Four this year. Houston, obviously these teams are super talented, but all these dudes bought in and had great coaches. Florida, Houston, Auburn, and Duke, they were all bought-in teams fully, 100%. And like you said, that's what it takes to win in March. Let's get back to some of the transfer portal stuff. There's a lot of rumors going around that Desmond Claude from USC is a target for BYU. I think there's a little momentum there. I think there's interest on both sides, but I think Desmond Claude is looking for too much of a payday. From what I'm being told, he's looking more for like PJ Haggerty type money, and I don't know what role he'd play at BYU, but BYU's not going to put up $4 million for Desmond Claude, to be honest. So unless that number comes way down, I don't think that ends up happening. Maybe it could. We'll see. But I don't think he ends up getting $4 million anywhere.
Yeah, and he might be a prime example. Like, if he comes to BYU, if he doesn't, I don't know. If he's someone that's like willing to buy into a winning culture and legitimately make a good move for his career, could he just accept whatever BYU or really any other school, like you said? I don't think he's going to make that money anywhere. No. But if he's going to just accept what they offer and decide, I just want to play at the best school then for me and for winning, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's the kind of guy that BYU would want. I know nothing about him. I don't know the whole process right now, but that just could be an example.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's 6'6". He's got decent size. I don't know necessarily the position he would play. It looks like if he did come in, he would be a 2, and then Richie would slot in back to the 3, kind of the same role he was playing last year. So I'm looking at that. I don't necessarily think that happens. I'd put it at like a 20% chance, to be honest. So we'll see how that recruitment plays out. It's just I said this at the beginning of the offseason, and I think a lot of our fans of the show understand this now. When they see a guy on Twitter and all of a sudden BYU slotted in there, doesn't necessarily mean BYU's interested in that guy or BYU's actively recruiting that guy. They'll put BYU's name in there because the agent calls BYU and said, hey, we're interested in coming there. And BYU can go, okay, cool, we'll think about it. Or, hey, okay, sounds good, we'll write your name down and we'll get you on the wait list like you're getting into a restaurant, basically. Like, all these dudes want to come play to BYU, and obviously a lot of them is just the agents are wanting to throw up the prices so they can get the max amount of money, and they know BYU has money. And so it's just frustrating because you're a fan and you see, CBS or whoever, or even Goodman will tweet out, hey, BYU has talked to this person and they're, whatever. And a lot of the time, I don't know how interested BYU actually is in that player. Claude, there is mutual interest, but I don't know how far it actually ends up going, to be honest. I feel bad. I don't want to poo-poo this stuff, but sometimes I feel like I'm poo-pooing it, but there's still a possibility it could happen. Like Darian Williams, there was mutual interest, but his price is going to be way too high, and that dude wants to go to the NBA.
Right, and we're not poo-pooing. We're just we tell the truth on this podcast. We keep it real with y'all. We don't want to overhype or undersell anything. We're like,
I'm not going to sit here and say BYU's going to go get Cooper Flagg.
I mean, I did hear. No, I'm just kidding.
He's taking lessons from the missionaries.
Yeah, he's never mind. You're absolutely right about Claude. Looking a little bit into his game, he's not exactly who we would think is what they're looking for, but we're not in the building. We could absolutely be wrong. He doesn't really fit the role of either a backup point guard or a 3-and-D guy. Doesn't shoot the 3 ball all that well. So I get the interest. He's talented. I just don't know if he's the fit BYU is looking for right now.
Yeah, I have questions about it as well. Anything else you want to touch on? That's kind of all the BYU news that's going on right now. Like the
Jimmer retires.
Jimmer retired. Shout out Jimmer. Congratulations on a great career. Heck of a career. I think he's gonna do a great job on. I hope to see him on a lot of the BYU broadcasts, especially on the limited ESPN Plus games this year. I hope we see him as a color guy for ESPN Plus this year. He does a great job when he's on.
Yeah, he did that one game this season where he was doing color, and I think he was really good. I think he has so much to offer. Like, dude, it's Jimmer Fredette. Like, he's got some of the best stories. He's played all over the world in every single league you can think of. Played with some of the best players. He's got so many good stories. He's got a lot of knowledge of the game. He obviously has lived and breathed it for so long. So I'm excited to see what he does. Maybe he's a coaching route kind of guy. Maybe he's someone who wants to join up a staff and maybe dip his toes in that, or media, the losers like us. He can.
Yeah, big J journalist, capital J, Jimmer Fredette. Great career. Yeah, you went to Boston this week. Shout out your wife.
Boston this week. Shout out my wife. Surprised me for my birthday. It's a good wife. I married up.
Happy birthday.
And it was good to be back home, Karter. I've missed Boston, and it was good.
Maybe if you're listening to this right now and you want to hear us talk about NBA stuff, go check out Kartercast. We'll be live tonight, Thursday night, if you're listening to this right now. But your take about switching teams, I feel like I bring this up every episode now, but it's so bad. Like, did you see the TikTok
of that? Not.
Did you see the TikTok of that kid who was crying after the Pistons won a playoff game?
I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
That's what matters. That's why you stick with your team. That's why.
It is, and I'm excited. I'm happy for him. I respect everyone. That's why I'm only offering again.
No, you don't. I don't know how many times I have to
explain. You only get one. So make a good choice. Look, you think that passion for a team is exclusive to one offset team that you grew up with. I'm just saying, I think you can be passionate about a team if you pour your heart and soul into it, whoever it is. And so my advice to some people who root for teams that will suck forever is that you can maybe switch. And I'm giving you a one-time shot.
I'll take. The other thing,
it'll make your sports more enjoyable. Go ahead.
Other thing we should touch on. How annoying is BYU Twitter right now with the whole Utah BYU NIL bull crap and this person's tampering. It's both parties are probably guilty.
Newsflash: everyone tampers. Everyone tampers, dude.
And the funniest part is people like, oh, I hate that in college sports people are tampering with our players. This doesn't happen in the pro game. I'm like, have you watched the NBA once in your life? These dudes are talking with teams the entire season, being like, hey, I'm going to ask out of my max extension that I just signed last summer, and I'm coming over there. You're never preventing this, even if you come in with rules and regulations and punishments and stuff. Tampering's just going to exist. This is how everything works. This is like saying you find some great salesman at Adobe. You're like, I want him at my company. Oh, but you're tampering with Adobe. Like, this is just how it works and everything. And just seeing the discourse online between BYU Utah fans, I don't even want to log into Twitter. I just want to sit here and see NBA stuff at this point. I'm so sick of seeing, this guy tampered with this guy on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, I like just trying to interact with NBA stuff, like so I can just get that out of my For You right now, because I'm just like, this is one of the best times of the year. I want to see this. Like, yeah, I'm with you, Carter. I think it's silly. I think it's funny that now everyone's freaking out about it. Guess when tampering was happening? 20 years ago, 15 years ago. This has been a thing in college sports forever, and now that money's involved, we're all acting like it's a big deal. Look, do they need to put rules in place? Probably. I think things need to be regulated a little bit. But to be upset about it right now is pretty silly. If a guy leaves your school, and I'm not talking about any fan base in particular. I think everyone gets a little PO'd when someone like leaves and you think that he was whatever. And it's like, look, dude, if he left, even if the other team tampered, he probably didn't want to be at your school anyway. And so why would you want him on your team? Like, you want guys who are bought in. This guy wasn't bought in because he went somewhere else. He wanted to go there. It's like, oh, because you got more money. You have money too. You have money too. And if he's really worth that, you'd pay him. No one's luring someone away with bags of money like it's some sort of 1980s cartoon. Like,
well, even if they are, who cares? That's what I'm saying. Like, everybody always goes back to the day job comparisons. Like, dude, if some other company offered you double your salary, you're leaving. You're gonna go take that better job and that better opportunity. Like, you could why would you ever fault a guy like Keelan Marion for wanting to go get an extra payday while he can? Like, dude, if he goes and makes a few extra $100,000, like, dude, good for him. Root for, like, that's fine. Like, and also, I don't think fans have to root on a player when they go to another school and they quote unquote burn them like that. Like, there's no rules for that. You can dislike the player or something. I don't necessarily care about that side of it, but I'm not going to fault a guy for going to get an extra few $100,000 somewhere else, because I'd be doing the same thing. Chase, if you and I were playing college basketball, I mean, if Utah came in and said, hey, Chase, we're going to give you $2 million. Meanwhile, BYU is only paying you $1 million. You're sitting here singing all the Utah songs. You're wearing red. You're doing everything. You're putting up the U like that every single time. You don't give a crap.
No, but it's a good point. Like, back to the day job thing. Like, if someone's going to pay you more, you're going to go to it. And if your current company really values you, they'll match the offer. Like, they will match it. They'll show that they want to keep you. So my thing, like, don't get mad at the other company for offering. Get mad at your own company. You should have taken care of that person better if you really wanted them to play for your team and be where you're at. But you didn't. You didn't want to match. So sorry.
And the thing that has to be the regulation that has to be put in place is, if these guys do sign a certain amount of year contract or whatever, like, these contracts have to become legally binding. That's the problem, is that you can sign it but it doesn't matter because it's not legally binding half the time, and you might have to pay back your signing bonus on the contract or whatever, and you can still just bounce anytime, so it doesn't matter.
The problem is, if you remember, like, transferring used to be that way. And then it was if you have a good reason, and a lot of guys cited mental health or whatever else. And then they were like, everyone's just citing mental health. And so we're just going to give free reign to everyone. It's where the money's involved. You just have to forfeit your NIL contract if you leave. Like, you don't get paid. You should legitimately be fined, and your money should be limited at the next school or something like that, because this idea of just like, I'm going to go get a bag with whoever wants me and I have absolutely no ties. And it's just, they're playing with fire, because there's no there's no accountability, there's no responsibility, and it's eventually gonna turn ugly. It's not great right now.
Yeah, but I think there's pretty simple fixes to a lot of this stuff where it's like, hey, like sign these guys to multi-year deals. Say, hey, we're going to sign you to a 2-year deal, and the way it's going to work is, look, you're going to come play here. If you want out, you're going to have to buy out your contract, or that other school is going to have to buy out your contract, and we get X percentage of that. Therefore, like that's how what's going to help these mid-majors is if they sign these, lower tier guys to these mid-major schools, like a Utah Valley, for example, then okay, some other school comes in and buys out your contract. We get 10-20% of that, and that helps out the mid-majors so they can reinvest that and go get someone else, and they get rewarded for developing these players. I feel like that is the only path forward that makes sense.
I think so too. It's kind of like you kind of have to do a little bit what coaches do. And some people complain on Twitter, right? And they're like, these college coaches, they preach about loyalty, but the whole time they're talking to other schools and they're ready to leave. And it sucks to see coaches leave and sign deals when they're still coaching games in March, but those guys have to get bought out. Like, guess what? You want Mark Pope, Kentucky? You're going to have to pay this much money to get him. Like, that's what the contract is for. And so therefore it's kind of no hurt feelings, no harm, no foul. We'll go find someone else and take this big fat check with a whole bunch of zeros on it. Because that's what it's worth, and that's the legality of it all. Because those guys are salaried, legit employees. This college athlete thing, it's unregulated. It's the Wild West.
It's interesting because all these coaches want a commissioner and want this regulation and whatnot, but I don't know if there's a soul out there that these dudes actually like and get along with that want to do the job. I mean, it's almost like a politician where it's like most people in politics they're different cats because it takes a different cat to want to be into politics and right. To want to be the commissioner of a sport. Like, you're going to get hated on by these coaches eventually, and you're going to have to be the bad guy. And it takes a different kind of person to want to be it. Like, people talk about, oh, Nick Saban would be great as the college football commissioner. But Nick Saban's like, yeah, someone's got to do it, but it's not going to be me.
You know who also, like, coaches say they want a commissioner. You know who doesn't? Athletic directors and the boosters. They get to make their own rules, man. I think they're legitimately enjoying this. They get to do whatever they want, no consequences.
Yeah, I think the top boosters do, but when you're a booster, you're like, hey, I'm putting up a good amount of money, and this school is still snagging our guys.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess if you're the top dogs, you're
how do you feel about a salary cap in college basketball?
I just think it would make it feel too much like the pros, and I think we would really start to be like, what's even the point of these calling these guys students anymore?
Because I don't think a salary cap would end up working, and I don't think it would. How would you implement that? I think that's a whole nother headache, and then I don't think the salary cap actually makes sense. I think it's just going to be like what European soccer is, where the contracts are binding, especially for a year, but you can really get out of stuff pretty easily. And then you just buy the player from the team and bring him in. Like, let's say BYU wanted to buy X player. Okay, they have to pay the school $100,000, and then the player gets his $1 million or whatever for next season.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the way. I mean, I don't know, man.
But then, like,
it's tricky, so many, dude.
It doesn't make any sense. And it was interesting because when I was leaving San Antonio, Tom Holmoe was at the Austin airport. He was going to DC to deal with all the Supreme Court stuff and everything. It was interesting hearing his thoughts where he's just like, yeah, like, we got to figure out some kind of thing, and we got to figure out what this rev share thing's going to be like. And I don't think there's been any ground made on it in the Supreme Court cases.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not checking the tabloids these days.
You're not going to law school or anything. You're not. I know you're super into politics.
Oh, dude, I'm not going. Wow. I'm doing podcasts with you is what I'm doing right now. So.
You're going to Boston with your wife, having a great time, and then you're doing podcasts. You're going to be up at midnight tonight while we're talking about Norm Powell on-off minutes.
Yeah, the NBA TV game of the night. Yeah,
crazy. That's NBA TV game of the night. Last thing before we go, because I got to get out of here. It's about to rain on me, so I don't want to get my stuff rained on. Last thing, we talked about this before, like 2 episodes ago. I just want to emphasize how awesome next season will be that BYU will not be playing a ton of games on ESPN Plus. And if it turns out they are playing a lot of games on ESPN Plus, that is a shame because I'm sick and tired of getting logged out of ESPN Plus when I am logged in. And also, Chase, I accidentally paid for another month of it. It auto-renewed. There's no point of having it in the summer. I got screwed. If you're listening to this, go check your subscriptions and get rid of that ESPN Plus thing if you don't have it in some Disney bundle or you're not mooching off someone else's login. I have my own. Accidentally paid for it. L move by me.
I mean, Carter, you do get locked into some women's lacrosse here. I mean, there's some good matches every Friday night.
I'll have it for Wimbledon.
Yeah,
I'll be locked in, or in U.S. Open. But I might go to the U.S. Open. I haven't decided.
There's also some good golf stuff on ESPN Plus.
I'm good.
You're not a golf guy.
I'm good. No, pass. Absolutely.
You don't want to see. You want to see every guy run through the 17th hole.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need the golf stuff. I'll watch the final day of the Sunday, and I'll take a nap halfway and I'll wake up at the 15th hole.
I mean, that's the way to do golf. But, you got to watch Peyton's places. You get all the 30 for 30s, Carter. I think this is actually a win. I think you're missing out.
Actual last bit of news, and then we'll get out of here. It's reported that BYU is looking to play a game at TD Garden in Chase's hometown in Boston. And so, actually, AJ DeBansa going back home, they're trying to work that out. Robbie McCombs was reporting that he doesn't think it'll actually be UConn. That remains to be seen. But either way, that's going to be sick. And, Chase, we have to go regardless.
That it's a coincidence that while I am in the building that there are reports that that's happening. I don't know what it is, but it is a funny coincidence. They're obviously looking for something there on the East Coast, whether it's MSG, I think TD, obviously because of
both are
AJ's roots. Both are in play. At least one of them is happening, and it's going to be a big school. It's going to be a big school, and I can't wait. And we're going to have to make a trip.
I'm hoping it's the same. They do the Jimmy V Classic and then Boston right before, right after, so we can just make it all into 1 week. You go up to Boston. You take me to your hometown. We see some folks there, and then we go TD Garden, see AJ play there, and then just train on down to New York City and see them play in Madison Square Garden. If you're a BYU fan on the East Coast, you have to make at least one of those games.
Have to. And it would be such a milestone for BYU to make that kind of trip and do those kind of tours with that kind of player playing those types of schools and those types of arenas, man. It's truly a new age of BYU basketball that we're even talking about this, that we're not, we're not locked in as to whether or not they're going to, be in who knows where, doing who knows what tournament against some A10 team. It's completely changed. It's a different feel, different vibe. And this is like just the beginning. College basketball is so far, it could not be further away, and still there's a different type of buzz.
It could not be further away, Chase, but we still went almost 40 minutes on this podcast today covering BYU sports. So shout out us. This is professional work, man. We know what we're doing here. We got 40 minutes in when there is nothing to talk about right now in college basketball. And guess what? We're probably going to do another 40 minutes next week. We'll be back next week. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, Church Ball Pod on everything, Field of 68 Podcast Network. And if you want to hear Chase and I talk about the NBA playoffs, go check out CarterCast. We'll be live on the CarterCast YouTube and Twitter account, and it'll be retweeted from Church Ball, so you'll easily be able to see it. We'll be live tonight, Thursday night, for NBA stuff. Come hop in the chat with us tonight. At Chase_Rogers0, at CarterB8, and at Church Ball Pod on everything. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. And we will be back next week, Chase, hopefully with some transfer commits or some big-time portal news, and we can scout some guys and get some intel. And hopefully we have an interview for you guys coming